Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex and this is the Lily Library. So I just wanted to firstly apologize because I know I said I was going to have a video last week, but unfortunately, as you will probably hear by the sound of my voice, I was very sick all last week and my entire family was sick. It was horrible, but I am finally feeling better and I am excited to finally finish up this winter reading wrap up. Now, I did want to talk about something that I didn't really discuss in the first video. You probably noticed, but a lot of the books that I choose at the beginning of the year are shorter, usually under 200 pages. And I do this to kind of kickstart my reading. And so all of these books, apart from one, are also shorter novels. So if you're looking for a book to pull you out of a reading slump, or you just want a quick read recommendation, I have got those for you. Sorry if there's a lot of cuts in the video. It's me just cutting out all of the coughing I'm doing, so yeah. So the first book I'm going to be talking about in my winter reading wrap up, part 2, is going to be The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw. So this is the story of a murderous mermaid and a brooding plague doctor who team up in a misadventure where they find a group of ageless children in a snowy village. And the story kind of progresses from there. This is a gorgeous, gothic, fantastical fever dream. That would be the best way to describe it. This is technically a horror, but I think the most frightening thing about it is probably the body horror and the imagery. So if you don't have the stomach to read that, probably not for you. It's charming. It's like charming horror. I savored every moment of this. I was just in every moment. Also, fantastic non-binary representation in the Plague Doctor. Loved that. In this, the plague doctor makes discoveries, and based on those discoveries, makes choices that I think really speak to the power of identity. And it really shows how confronting your past, even without resolution, can lead to healing. And this really is just a novel of healing and self-discovery. This is probably going to be another polarizing book where people either love it or hate it, don't enjoy it, think it's boring. So you may fall into that category, but if you love reading just gorgeous prose, I think this is worth it. The next book I read was We Had to Remove This Post by Hannah Brevoux. This novel is of a young woman who begins a career as a content moderator for a social media platform, and how it affects her life, how it affects the life of her colleagues, and the events that transpire while she is working for the company. I'm gonna say it, another polarizing book. I don't understand why I gravitate towards these, but maybe it's just the need to know myself. I found a lot of reviews that were disappointed in how the novel didn't shock them and how it wasn't violent enough. I do find this critique fascinating because of what the message of the novel is. This is not a novel of shock and awe. It is a slow burn. It's a quiet book. It walks us through the process, which is sometimes a slow process of becoming radicalized, of disillusion, of disconnect from reality that happens when we are exposed to content, especially harmful content, consistently, regularly. It's a novel about how the digital age is stripping us of our humanity. It's a novel of corporations and corporate culture and what they are willing to sacrifice in order to profit. I also love an unreliable narrator, and we have that in Kaylee. She just doesn't realize how she's changing. She doesn't realize how her actions are becoming more reactive and unhealthy. I think reading that through a first-person perspective is quite illuminating, and I think it takes a lot of skill from the author, so I was very impressed by that. There's also an ambiguous ending, which again, I love, but I know people are going to hate. To me, it really left me with a lot to think about and process and understand, and I thought it was quite poetic. I loved the ending. But to finish this review off, I have to give it up for Liz on Goodreads. Love you, Liz. She did a 2-sentence review of this book that honestly slayed the Boots house down. The fact that she can do it in such a succinct and concise way, I wish. I truly wish, but I ramble clearly. And her review is, the point of this book is to not shock the reader. It's to point out how little shocks us anymore, and yet how much we are changed fundamentally without our knowing. Girl, that's the whole damn book. She did it. She did it. If that sounds interesting to you, you're gonna like this. The next book that I read was Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. Fonda Lee is a very popular fantasy writer who wrote the Jade City trilogy, but this is the story of Esther. She experiences a horrific tragedy in her childhood. Both her mother and her brother are killed by a manticore, who are kind of the countryside hunters in this world. And that propels her to become a trainer of rocks. And they are these giant eagles, essentially, who help protect the countryside, and they kill manticores. This is another story about healing and finding closure in your past. I have to say, I was so impressed by the vibrant and detailed world that Fonda Lee was able to create in like 150 pages. There is a reason why fantasy books are the length that they are. It's very challenging to create a fully fleshed out world in, under 200 pages, but she does it. I was fully invested in this story. The only thing that I wanted was for it to be longer, which I think is a testament to this author. I absolutely adored the characters. Darius, how you doing? My favorite kind of male lead. Quiet, reserved, but a badass, and it was hot. I loved him. It was actually quite emotional at the end. There was this freedom and this levity that the character gained, and it also came with accepting like another loss. It was so beautiful. It really was beautiful. I loved it. I loved it, and I think if you just want a short fantasy, this is the one. The next book that I read was The Employees by Olga Ravin. So this novel's backstory is quite intriguing. It was originally written as a companion piece to an art installation. The art installation is by Leah Guldet Hestlung, and I'm so sorry if I butchered that name. And the actual exhibit is Consumed Future Spewed Up as Present, which was shown in Copenhagen in 2018. The artist actually reached out to Olga to see if she would write like a program that could be incorporated into the installation. And that eventually turned into like leaflets that were left throughout the exhibit that then turned into this book. It's really cool that you can go and actually look at the direct inspiration of this author. This novel is a sci-fi. It is about a spaceship that is exploring a planet called New Discovery, and they have collected objects from this planet and they've brought them onto the spaceship, and they begin to see that the staff of this spaceship, which are both human and humanoid, android and human hybrid, they notice that they are becoming affected by these objects. So the novel is told through a series of memos and staff reports that tell you through the employee's perspective how they're feeling, what they're experiencing. Much like We Had to Remove This Post, this is a novel to me about capitalism and corporate culture. This novel really mirrors US capitalism, and specifically about how corporations treat employees through working conditions and how they push productivity to the point of dehumanization. This is a novel around the ethics of progress and how a lot of the times employees are significantly removed or completely removed from that conversation and the effects that that has on employees. It also shows how extreme working conditions can leave those subjected to it extremely divided, and how that division can create conflict, but also how that division can create kinship in rebellion to a larger oppressor. I think it is one, again, that is not plot heavy. It really is a character study. So I would definitely recommend this one. The next book that I have is Idle Burning by Rin Usami. So this novel is of a young woman named Akari and her obsession with, as she refers to him, her Oshi. He is a member of a J-pop group, and the novel follows her and her relationships with her family, her friends, her environment, and how that is affected by this obsession, and also how it is affected when this member is accused of assault against a fan. This is a novel about stan culture, and I have never really experienced stan culture to this degree. I mean, I 100% had a crush on Draco Malfoy, as I think we all did. And yes, I did have a journal dedicated to my love and adoration of him, but it never got to the point that the character in this novel reaches, which is an all-consuming space. After reading this, I want a fully researched ethnographic dissertation just on stan culture. It may already exist, and if it does, I need to read it. I find the whole thing just absolutely fascinating. This is a symptom of being chronically online, and it's also something that we are experiencing, I think, for the first time because of the resources available to us. This novel really highlights just the need and the desperate desire that we have, especially young people, have for connection and they have for community. It also speaks to how the parasocial relationship, it can get to the point of affecting your real day-to-day life. And that to me is terrifying, but I don't think a lot of people mind integrating their online reality with their in-person reality. And I don't necessarily want to say it's unhealthy. I think a lot of healthy interactions can come from it, but when it gets to the point of obsession, like we see with our main character, you kind of see how damaging it can be. Really fascinating, really interesting. I think it's going to be relatable to some people, and I think it's going to be insightful to people who maybe don't understand or want a deeper look or insight into people who participate in stan culture. And then the last book that I want to talk about in this wrap up is Dark Water Daughter by H.M. Long. I would categorize myself as an atmospheric reader. I am especially inclined to read books seasonally. I love reading an autumnal book in the fall. I love a beach read in the summer, and I love a snowy escape in the winter. So I definitely wanted to pick this up in the winter because it takes place on what they call the winter sea, a cold, snowy ocean. This is the story of Mary Firth. She is a storm singer. She can use her voice to harness the power of weather, which makes her quite valuable to several men who sail the winter sea. And this is a dual perspective book. The other perspective is Samuel Rosser. Samuel Rosser is a disgraced naval officer who becomes a privateer, and Samuel will stop at nothing to right his wrongs. Dual perspectives and multiple perspective books are quite popular. I'm not a huge fan, I have to be honest. This book just left me with much to be desired. I genuinely thought this was going to be a 5-star read for me, and it hit all the bullet points, but something was missing. And I think that I have figured out that it was in the pacing. I'll give you an example. This book is 457 pages long, okay? The main climax, the most action you get in the whole story, the most drama, is only 31 pages. 31 pages of 457 pages. It's just not right. We brush past things too quickly that need more exploration, and we focus on things that I don't think are necessary to the plot. I.e., for me, the entire perspective of Samuel Rosser. I just didn't need it for the story. I don't need to know what he's thinking to understand the story. But that's just my opinion. I didn't hate it by any means. I mean, I read the whole thing, and I'm debating whether I want to pick up the sequel, but I would be interested to read more of this author. But yeah, didn't love it. Disappointing because I had high expectations. I think that's the main thing. I really thought this was going to be a 5-star read, so kind of a bummer. And that's it. That's it for my winter reading wrap up. Thank you so much for your patience. I will have another video for sure coming next week. I'm very excited about this video because it has to do with some reading that I did that ties into a museum exhibit that I recently saw. And I can't wait to show you. Yeah, let me know what you're reading below. Give me some spring recommendations and I'll see you guys in the next video.